Oh, we are so back, guys. We are so back right now. What a time to be an Isekai fan, guys. Our peak Isekais are back from the dead and continuing on this season, and I'm here for it. Hey, what's going on, everyone? And today I am going to be making a video on some peak Isekais that have been reinstated this anime season. I don't normally do videos on shows that are like airing like weekly right now, but these are two shows, especially in the Isekai genre, that are super popular, number one, and two, shows I've been following for a long time, so I make an exception for shows like those. And I watched the first few episodes of both of these shows, and I just wanted to talk about it and just give my first impressions on the seasons and how I think this is going to go. So we'll go ahead and start with what I believe is the more popular one, and that is, of course, Mushoku Tensei. So it's actually kind of funny about Mushoku Tensei, this part of the season that came out. When I heard that it was out, and I heard that it was coming out this season, I did not give a shit. It was really weird. I thought that was strange because I had been following Mushoku Tensei for so long. I thought it was a little strange that I didn't care at all. Maybe I was thinking, I'm not gonna watch it weekly anyway. I'm gonna wait because that's what I've done with like all my other shows. And I saw there were 3 episodes into the season already, so I was like, all right, let's just do it. Every time I feel like I'm out of Mushoku Tensei, as soon as I watch an episode, I go right back in. I mean, this show is just so freaking good. I enjoy it so much. It is truly a masterclass in the Isekai genre, I think. Like I said, I don't know why I didn't care about this part coming out, because I really liked the first part of season 2. I find Mushoku Tensei kind of funny in the sense of just not only Isekai shows, but just like fantasy anime and just like that kind of fantasy shows, really, fantasy media. Because if you think about it, the kind of plot of a lot of fantasy stuff is hero's journey type shit, you know? And it usually ends at the end of the journey. Like, that's the end. Of course, we have the classic example, the most famous example, and probably the most legendary example being, of course, Lord of the Rings. You know, once the quest with the ring is over, the War of the Ring concludes, you know, that's the end of the story. But recently, we have an anime that defied that standard, that has become very popular, which is Frieren, of course. And I should probably make a video on Frieren. I really enjoy that. Yeah, boy. But Mushoku Tensei is another one of those shows. It basically deviates from that normal standard, like we have to end the show with the journey concluding. In Mushoku Tensei, the journey, like that the hero is going on, the hero's journey, if you want to call it that, it's over before season 1 even ends. So basically, how I viewed season 1 was that was the buildup. That was the big character arc of Rudius. Eris leaving at the end of season 1 was basically, you know, the climax. God, now I feel weird for saying that word. I shouldn't have said that word. You know what happens at the end of season 1. That was a bad word choice on my end. Oh, brother. And then Eris leaves, and that was basically the penultimate moment of Rudius's character development. And how I viewed season 2 is that this is the aftermath of all of that. This is the resolution. This whole ED arc he goes through in season 2 is the resolution of that development that took place all throughout season 1. Really, it's not the plot itself that is the driving force of Mushoku Tensei. I feel like that's kind of background noise and more of just like a framing mechanism for the main drive of Mushoku Tensei, which is Rudius's character development. I mean, the show is called Jobless Reincarnation, not I got reincarnated in another world, married an elf, and went on a journey. Write that down! Like they said at the very beginning of the show, is that this is just a retry, and that is who he's becoming is a different person, and that is, I think, the main driving force of Mushoku Tensei. And that's just such an interesting thing that you don't see in a lot of isekai, where the main driving force is character development. So season 3 has started off, and it started off pretty good. There was this one moment in the beginning part of season 3 in Mushoku Tensei that made my jaw hit the floor. Nanahoshi and her freak out over not being able, and like the failure of the teleportation circle that her and Rudius have been working on, that was so visceral. And that brought up and kind of really painted the picture, I feel like, of that desperation, and something that isekais don't really touch on pretty much at all in most of them. See, the thing is, most of the time, and even in Mushoku Tensei itself, when the protagonist gets teleported to the other world, they have zero fucking interest in leaving the world. Now, Mushoku Tensei does it a little better because they actually reference his past life and his past experiences and his past feelings several times in the early parts of the show and also throughout. But like in most standard isekais, the protagonist doesn't even bring up like the past. Like they're just like, man, f that noise. We are going on to this new one. They don't give a shit about anyone that back on Earth or anything that happened back there. They don't give a fuck. They just let all that shit go, which is completely unrealistic if you ask me. I'm not saying it's unrealistic for someone to enjoy being teleported to a new world. I'm saying it kind of feels unrealistic, at least to me. It's non-relatable to be teleported to another world and just drop everything that has happened in my previous life. Like that is usually how isekais go. They are blank fucking slates coming in. But Nanahoshi is a very good addition. Gives us an entirely new perspective on the isekai situation compared to Rudius. Like Rudius said in season 2, he has built a new life for himself. He doesn't want to go back. And honestly, we're not even sure if he can go back because his situation is different from Nanahoshi's. And Nanahoshi does not like the world she's been teleported to. She doesn't age. She doesn't conform to their values. This world is archaic. It's not what she's used to. She's not comfortable with it. And that is something like no one brings that up. I swear to Christ, how many times has a Japanese teenager been teleported to another fucking world? He's from modern day. It's not like they're from 1600 freaking Japan or whatever the they're modern day people. So they're used to air conditioning and internet and text messaging. They're used to all the conveniences that we have today. And then they're teleported to this fantasy world where they're riding on carts and horses and freaking shit like that. And they're just totally fine with it. And they just pick it up as they go along. Like, that's crazy. Oh my God. If I had to live in a world without ice in my drinks, just not interested. I'm just saying they never include that level of depth in isekais. Most isekais are just surface level shit, and that's what makes Mushoku Tensei such an amazing isekai, is they actually dig into shit like that. They have brought up this problem with isekais that no one addresses in any of these other shows, and just like how a person can feel like they don't belong in the new world. They want to get the out of there, and that's why she goes batshit insane. That was a really powerful moment for me, and one of the standouts so far of this first part of the second season. And now we're moving on to Norn and Aisha, and this is something now I feel like we're getting into a new phase of the show here, because like with Rudius finding and marrying Sylphie in part 1, we've kind of concluded his resolution, at least a little bit. Ruger did bring up a good point that, like, you know, if Eris comes back, he's still clearly hung up a little bit on Eris. Like, he definitely still has some lingering things going on with Eris. I mean, I haven't read the light novel, so I don't know what happens in the future, but clearly something is going to happen with Eris again. Eris is going to appear in the show again. I know that. Like, there's no way she's not going to. But for the most part, Rudius has finally moved past all that shit he was carrying around in part 1 of season 2. So now that we've kind of resolved that whole thing with him, we're now moving on to the things going on with his sisters, Norn and Aisha. Clearly, Norn is suffering from an inferiority complex because, Rudius and Aisha are both clearly very gifted. There's nothing wrong with her. It's just that Aisha and Rudius are just so gifted and like stand out at everything. She's always getting compared to them, and that's a tough spot to be in. I'm sure a lot of us, including myself, can relate to that, being compared to other people, particularly siblings. That's always rough. But then we also have like Aisha's insecurities about like her standing in the family because of, everything that went down between Lilia and Zenith and Paul, like that whole thing. Technically Aisha is illegitimate, and so like she's like, got all these insecurities about that, and like, oh, people don't love me as much as her because we're only half related and stuff like that. So clearly these two girls are carrying around a lot of baggage, and we have to sort that out. And that's what I feel like this next arc is going to focus on, because like I said, Rudius is kind of, his whole, resolution has pretty much concluded. There's still other things going on, of course. The major things have been solved. So now we're going to focus on the other part of the Grey Rat family. But basically, guys, Mushoku Tensei Season 3 has swept me off my feet once again. I am absolutely in love with the show. Oh my God, that opening. Holy shit, that opening goes hard as hell. That opening was amazing. I think this season has started off great. Kind of basically the first 2 episodes were more cleanup for the lingering things going on from part 1, and now episode 3 is basically kickstarting this next arc, I feel like. So I'm very excited to see where it goes. But yes, Mushoku Tensei Season 3, I will be watching it, and I couldn't be more excited. Peak Isekai. And so now moving on to the other topic of this video, I wanted to talk about another peak Isekai that's been dead for a while. We haven't gotten any any material from that. And of course, I'm talking about the beloved That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, also affectionately referred to as Slime Isekai. So I made a couple videos on Slime Isekai a few years back when I was first getting into it. I also talked about it a little bit in my Isekai tier list. I have to do another one of those soon. I think I will. So I've already kind of given my general thoughts on the series as a whole and why I like it so much. But like Mushoku Tensei, I've only watched the first 3 episodes of season 3 so far. These first 3 episodes I think really have encapsulated what is so great about Slime Isekai. So I think the last thing I watched from the Slime Isekai world was the movie. I watched that like a year and a half ago. It was definitely before I moved. And what's funny is I don't really remember too much from the movie. Honestly, I thought the movie was pretty mid. The only thing that vividly stands out in my head is the double resurrection at the very end of it. I remember just thinking, wow, that is stupid. I just thought it was funny. Like, I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how many times are we gonna go back and forth? But yes, I did know that this one was coming out, and I have been following the show for years, so I was very, very excited. These first 3 episodes of Slime Isekai, season 3, have focused almost entirely on politics and world building. Really, Rimuru, the main character, is not in these episodes very much. Like, most of the time he's in the show, he's either listening to someone or someone else is talking about him. Like, he's not actually doing much. And I've said this before, but Slime Isekai's cast and world are like the best things about it. And I've kind of viewed these first few episodes as like basically the post-Walpurgis arc, Walpurgis wrap-up, and also the ramifications felt around the world from the events of the Walpurgis arc. That is just what I think makes Slime Isekai so good. Similarly to Overlord, how much effort they put in to developing and describing and explaining and detailing things that happen outside the direct view of the MC. Damn it, the camera keeps going out of focus. Like, everything that was going on in Falmouth, like, Rimuru isn't even there for all the stuff in Falmouth. And then, of course, we have everything going on with Hinata and Demon Lord Valentine, and it's all just a bunch of political scheming. It seems like it's just schemes and plans being enacted, and nothing has come to a head yet. It's all just like, oh, we have to watch ourselves. Like, oh, we'll let this unfold for a while. From the villains too, like the villains are just like, oh, let's be patient, let's pull back a little bit from what happened. Everyone is just scheming and planning all around the world, and I love it because that is just what makes Slime Isekai so enjoyable, is the world building. And going back to the point where I say that like Rimuru doesn't even seem like the huge main focus like a lot of the times in Slime Isekai. I've had this thought about Slime Isekai and just like Rimuru in general ever since like halfway through season 1, basically at the end of all the Shizu stuff. And I've kind of thought of it like this, like Rimuru, basically Shizu was his chance at like the traditional happy ending boy meets girl kind of thing. Shizu was his one, his soulmate, or whatever you want to call it. That's how I viewed it. And so when he lost her, that was him losing his own personal happily ever after, if you want to call it that. But now Rimuru is in a position where he is a leader of his people and is someone that can determine the future of his people, someone who can put them down a path that their lives will follow. So really what I think Rimuru's goal is to give everyone else their own happily ever after. That's like my perspective on it. He has missed his chance for his personal one. So now he's going to give it to everyone in his life, and that in turn will create his own happily ever after. Bringing happiness to the other people in his life is going to provide his own happily ever after. That's how I see Rimuru's actions and why he does what he does, what he's motivated by. This is just a personal thing, but that's just something I felt very strongly in these first few episodes, because he like I said, nothing in these first 3 episodes is really solely focused on Rimuru. Like, sure, they all serve him, but like they're just enacting plans like that Rimuru has laid out, and Rimuru is only thinking of them too. So it's not like they're doing everything for his sake and only for his sake, because like Rimuru is making them do things for like all of their sakes. It's a collective. But yeah, like these first few episodes like just haven't focused on him at all. It's focusing on all these other things going on with other people and things happening with them, and that's what makes Slime Isekai so good, is we spend so much time with these other people. It's very similar to Overlord in that regard, and one of the big things I've praised about Overlord is how much they develop side characters that maybe don't have huge effects on the world, but are still like very important to develop, Slime Isekai does the exact same thing. And that's why I've enjoyed it so much in these first few episodes, with all the scheming and planning and all the gears are going, and there's so many plot lines zigzagging around. Like, this world is so complex and complicated and alive, and I just love being thrust back into it. Like, I'm so happy Slime Isekai is back. Couldn't be more excited for these two peak isekais. I put them both in S tier on my old tier list, and I've decided during the course of this video that I'm going to do another isekai tier list. I'll update my old positions, and then I'll put in a bunch of new ones too. I think I want to do that, yeah. It's been a long time. So guys, what did you think of these first little parts of the new seasons of Mushoku Tensei and Slime Isekai? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I love to discuss with you guys. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please hit that like button to let me know. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.